certainly over the years made sure that you remain who you are and be true to yourself and true to people that elect you and or that pay you. Because I had a little bit different idea than most other people in the county agent role. You know, some people just served the university, which I was fortunate working in, but I served the people. And there was many times when those two issues would collide, what the university wanted and what the people collide, you know. And so in my world, I was far enough away from Athens, and Pickens County supported me enough that I could get by with serving the people above what went on at the university. And that worked out good for me because it's just the way I was raised.
And you took it to a different level and honestly have maintained it. Now, we're facing some things in America today that probably you or I never thought. I never thought the economy, you know, I lived through that reign of terror with the 8 years in that last administration where we saw in real estate, realtors were greeters at Walmart because we didn't have anything else to do because the market was gone, the contractors were gone. Yesterday I featured a restaurant that served the contractors, the working public, and then during that reign of terror when we lost all the buildings, and, you know, when you're building cabins in these beautiful mountains, when you're building new farms over in Murray County, when you're building all these things that just stopped dead in their tracks for 8 years, now we were seeing great growth. Everything was wonderful, and we were just booming, and then this stupid virus hit. Now, were you part of a quarantine area that some guys had to be quarantined?
Yeah, we all were. I mean, a few people came to the Capitol with COVID-19, so it really put
and
us
they had
off.
no idea they had this.
They'd been tested, and it was just a fluke of thing, but, you know, we were all quarantined. Then I got probably a light case of it. So then that puts you another 14 or 15 days out there. So
but you still had your phone, you were still talking to people.
Oh yeah, you know, the best you could, and people were scared, but Marcia took great care of me, and we got over it. I've got a son-in-law.
And she didn't get it at all.
She's tough, man. Marcia's, I mean, y'all need to talk to a tough woman, call Marcia, but you know, but I have a son-in-law who's a physician, and Marcia and him and my doctor, they all looked after me. You know, I did what they said as a hard-headed man. Once I did everything they said, just about, and I kind of got over it. Very fortunate, but a lot of people haven't. And a lot of people's not just their health, but their mental health, their physical health, their financial health is. Anyway, I guess every day, I guess when I get up in the morning, I watch the news a little bit to see what happens. I get on my email. I guarantee you, I'm on the phone till 11 o'clock every morning, dealing with somebody's issue, trying to help them negotiate something in state government. I've got an aide in Atlanta, Lisa Fountain, who I put on some of them. I do some, Lisa does some, just trying to cut through red tape. It's because, I mean,
and I told you that's how I got involved with Nathan and Becky over at his office, because it was red tape. I had tried myself for 2 years to get something done, and I kept getting the door slammed in my face. And after 2 years, I said, look, Bubba, this is the way it's going to be. I got to get some help. And I went to them and got the help. And so basically, I always recommend now, I tell people when they call me and say, hey, you know so-and-so, can I get, you know, can I get some help from immigration to work to whatever? And I said, just pick up the phone and call them and tell them your story. And how many times have you heard a story of desperation in the last 2 weeks? The last 2 weeks, a bunch.
A lot. I mean, it's every day. I mean, and some of it's people's fault. Some of it's not their fault. Some of it's the circumstances of life. It just don't, you know, it's just
and
doesn't work out.
And this virus was nobody's fault that has been affected by it. But I look at little businesses, and do you know what opened back up yesterday in Jasper? Can you guess? The Speed Burger.
I saw that on Facebook.
The Speed Burger had lines out the wazoo, just nearly to Gilmer County. Because this is a local, over 60-year family business. It was forced to shut down because of this. It's horrible. But when they opened back up, and I want everybody in all the local communities that we serve to look at your mom and pop businesses, to look at those small businesses that don't have that big chain logo behind them. There's nobody there backing them. There's somebody like you who might help them with an SBA loan or might help them with so-and-so, but there'll be some that fall through the cracks. And you know, going to these Murray County buildings and the meetings you go to, there are little restaurants that you like to eat at that are local mom and pops.
There are. And
we've got to help them.
And we do. And be local. Or in another community, be local. And try to take care of each other. I mean, I think that's what, I know Marcia and I, that's what we've tried to do. Now, we eat at home a lot. We've always been that way, you know.
Yeah.
And I have to tell on me, so we were looking, I know, have you been through your freezer yet? We've been like...
That is so funny, because I said I'm not going to the store till we eat what's in that freezer. Now, there are some unidentifiable objects in that freezer.
We had the best laugh the other day. We found a pack of bagels stuffed back in there from Harry's Farmers Market.
Oh my gosh.
2012.
Oh my gosh. Well, they were frozen. Yeah, they were okay.
They were fine. I mean, they were fine. You know. But we've done, and I know a lot of people kind of tease each other about doing that. My kids have teased us a lot.
Oh, yeah.
This worked out great, but I don't know where I was going with that. But I just thought about those bagels, and it's just funny.
You do what you have to get through tough times.
Yes, ma'am.
And people then hit a wall. And before we came on the air, we talked a little bit about, I'm greatly concerned about mental health in Georgia.
Yes.
Because, and you hit on it, the financial health, the mental health is next. Suicide and depression is one of those things that COVID-19 has killed a lot of people. Suicide kills about 5 times as many a year as COVID-19 has. As you go back into your budget negotiations, and Georgia has to have a balanced budget, Georgia has to do this, Georgia has to do that, we have got to keep funding in mental health.
Yeah.
And I told you before we came on the air, if I ran things, I wouldn't do it my way, because my way was always, buy everybody this, buy everybody that. You can make more money. I've learned from that. My grandmother would say, sugar, no. You put back for a rainy day. You put back for a rainy day. You save money. You do this, you do that. I would want the government to look at paying for production, paying for people who work, paying for people who do their job well, and cutting the fat. And I would be all about getting rid of the waste in government.
We're going to have the chance.
You're going to have a chance. I've seen that opportunity coming down the road.
Yeah, we're going to have a chance there,
and
Cherie.
you can do it. You can do it.
We
There's
are.
so much waste.
Well, I think there are programs that maybe we don't need to do now, or there are ones.
There are duplicate things going on.
Well, and there are things that we just don't need to do. And you know, the governor and the House and Senate got together last Friday, sent a letter out to all the department heads saying, we want your 14%. Now, as I was writing a lady's answer to a question this morning, this is going to be hard because in the state budget, you know, we buy cars and we buy electricity to turn the lights on, but for the most part, it's people.
Yeah.
People to sit in the driver's services, people to sit wherever, and all DPAC's offices and courts and all these things. It's lots and lots of people. But when you start talking in the 14% range, you're going to cut people. And some of those we're going to have to be real critical and look at, so we don't need to do this
Maybe
anymore.
early retirement for some.
Well, we've been kind of doing that along, but there'll be some programs that we're just going to have to say, can't do them. But there's some we have to do. And when it comes to health, we know that probably if you look at the health funding, we probably underfunded some things in community health departments. Probably going to change how they operate, you know, because they've got to become more effective in doing the job that they need to do. Mental health's one that I think in the last 2 years or 3, really, we put more money into it in the state budget, especially in school-age children and out, to try to address mental health. Because it's been a huge issue. I mean, because schools can't operate with that going on. They've got to have counselors in place to help deal with kids.
And one counselor in a large school is probably not enough.
Well, you know, sure, what we've seen is you can't really, you know, counselors have their role, the ones that you think of. We're talking about mental health counselors, which is a different role. I know some counselors take the role of it, some don't. But we're saying, well, we have to fund mental health experts
Sure.
that they have to deal with a lot of kids. It's a tough job.
In an era of bullying, we're
All
dealing
of
with
it.
something that when you and I went to school, did people bully you? Did anybody?
Yeah. Me and this one guy bullied each other. We fought on the playground, pulled each other's hair, choked each other, but we got it over with, you know.
Yeah.
It's different now. You can't, you know, yeah.
Well, teen
We're still
suicide.
Facebook friends.
Teen suicide is up.
Yes.
Recently we have seen suicide rates climb. And we have to stop that. So getting people back to work, getting them feeling better about themselves is so very important. Our governor took some heat for opening up Georgia too fast. I wanted him to open it up gently, with common sense, and get us back to work.
Before we chase that rabbit, let's talk about mental health a little bit more. In that, I think what I've learned is that you have to recognize it, and you can't be afraid of it, and you've got to seek help the best you can.
Yeah.
And it's a tragedy.
If you had a teenager with depression, would you know it? Would you see it?
I think you might, but you might not know what to do.
Yeah.
It's not something we learn, but I think you'd have
It's
to
not
seek.
the norm.
No, I think you'd have to get out and seek help. And I think if you're persistent, as most parents are, generally you're going to find the help today. Now, years ago, there just weren't that many people involved in it. I talked to the governor last year. We have these technical training segments that we pay full tuition for. So we need to kind of open this up into the college level too for certain things that we just can't hire enough people. And mental health counseling is one of them to me, because the schools don't have enough people. The demand is there. We've got to meet that demand. And we're failing Georgians if we don't. That's something I've just kind of taken on, because I'm the chairman of this thing called Rural Development Council. Speaker Ralston started it about 3 years ago. Lord, I wouldn't have enough to do, and decided to spend my whole summer and fall doing that. But boy, have I learned a lot about the state and just the little needs that make big differences. Because you can be in Jasper, or we are, or Johns Creek, or Atlanta, or Moultrie, or Ty.
Albany, which is a totally different ballgame.
There are those mental health needs there, and we're working on it. We got a great gal in the Capitol, Katie Dempsey's from Rome. She is the ramrod of mental health work that's done there, and I support Katie. She's just a couple seats down from me. We talk about it a lot. But
I think it's so very important, and as sometimes people don't always say, I'm giving up, and you don't see it in their eyes, and you don't realize, and then something happens, and it's too little too late.
Yeah.
So we have to address it now, today, and as we're going back to work. I'm going to tell you a story. A big, huge restaurant yesterday opened in Canton, opened their doors back up. Well, in their long shift, they had very few people who came in to dine in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because people are still nervous.
Sure.
Now, the governor said we can open up, and we are abiding by rules, and they've laid down the law. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
This is how it should be. Gutsy me walked into a restaurant that was just opened back up, and there were only 5 tables of us there, and we were seated very far apart. But I'm a businesswoman. I know that you can't pay your overhead with 5 tables. So the restaurants are really up against it.
Yeah.
But we have to have those rules in place. I didn't want to sit near
There are
somebody
39
else.
rules they have to
A bunch
abide
of
by.
them, and I'm glad.
That long.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I had my hair done this morning, and she abides by rules, and the list is like, and it's
28.
like, yes. But that's the way we have to do. We have to operate safely, but we have to get back to work, because if not, we're going to see depression, we're going to see suicide, we're going to see things happening that we don't want to happen anymore. We just want to gently, let's get back to work.
Well, I think the governor has been real thoughtful about this. I know some people will disagree and they'll raise heck at me tonight on Facebook about that, but
Surely not.
it's really trying to be thoughtful and use Dr. Toomey, use CDC, which is like up the street from the Capitol.
Do you know some people don't even know that Atlanta has CDC? They don't even know. There's people in this world that don't even know where it is.
And they have a lot of expertise there, but he's tried to use all that to get us going, knowing exactly what you're saying.
We've got to.
We've got, this ship is kind of taking a hard
so important.
left. We got to get it going back the other way. And you know, it has been controversial. You know, the news media had a big time with it.
I was one of those wonders because a couple of those businesses I thought, we don't really need that open. We don't need this. We don't need that. And I'm not even going to say which ones they were, but y'all could guess because I'm like a wipe everything down. And I'm thinking, how can you empty that place and wipe it down that quickly? But then I'm one of the first who walked into a restaurant and took the plunge and sat there. It was my first time in 6 weeks to be in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was nervous, and I was watching every move they made, you know.
Yeah.
But I felt good about it because this is a business that needs to go.
And they're going to do, I'm sorry.
They've got to.
I'm like you, I'm just one of these touching people. But they're going to do it because they want to be successful.
Sure.
And I think one conference call we had with the governor, they said, we're on there talking. They said, I remember someone, I don't know if it was me or somebody said, they're going to do what's right.
Yeah.
Because they want to be successful.
Sure.
And our business people are smart, they're adaptable, they're going to do what it takes.
It is weird to be talking to a waitress that's got on a mask.
I know.
Because you feel like you got the Lone Ranger and Tonto up
Yeah,
here.
she's trying to protect you, isn't it? You know, and mask wearing, you know, we're not doing it right now. Marcia handed me what I said, we're not going to do it, we're wrong.
And I said, I have been really the sanitary queen, you know, and I'm being very cautious, and I do have allergies, and everybody knows it's just allergies, but I've been very cautious because after protecting myself for over 50 days, why would I risk it now?
Yeah.
But we have got to get Georgia back to work.
Yes.
And on this level, tell me a little bit about how the governor has decided the phase 1, phase 2, what's next to come?
Phase 2 will be next. And they're in active negotiation, figuring out exactly what they can do next. You know, how can you drop that seating level from 500 square feet? Can you start bringing it down? You know, they're watching the data, and that's data driven. And I think, as rightly said, 2 weeks from now, we'll know if we're right.
Right.
Because we'll look at those numbers across the state.
Sure.
Some areas are much more worse.
Sure.
You know.
Well, Gilmer County started with like 1 case, and then 2 cases, and 8 cases, 9 cases, then 60-something cases now. But I think it's testing.
It's coming back down.
Well, I think it was because testing began.
Well, the numbers. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The test.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but and then there's the specific people just at Gilmer's that's coming down. I think they got in educated people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it, making sure that they're doing, you know, the things that Marcia did when I was a little sick, just to trying to.
Common sense. Common sense.
If you can find them.
Usually, common sense. One of my viewers brought me 2 big packs of these. She brought me masks. She brought me, you know, common sense. My grandmother would say a little common sense goes a long way.
We've got them in our car. I think it's funny. I have a thing of hand sanitizer in my truck, which I'm just not. I mean, it's just like not what I usually ever did.
Yeah, but you do.
But yeah, when I left this place yesterday, I poured a little hand sanitizer on my hand just because I'm bad about rubbing my face, and so I think it's one of
That's been the hardest thing to do.
I know for Marcia,
mess with my face because you itch or you scratch or you whatever. But now, when you go back to work.
But back to the governor.
Okay.
I just want to follow up. You know, he's got tremendous criticism. You know, he's been.
I was going to ask you, have you given him advice?
Oh, absolutely. We have a personal conference call with the governor every Thursday, and we're telling him what we think and what we think he should do or shouldn't do. He has one with the cities I think it's today at 2:00. Has one with his health to people. You know, and I don't know how much time we have, but I want to brag on the National Guard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you know, we talk about a lot of different people and doing things for our state, but our National Guard has just stood up.
Yeah.
Golly, I mean.
And they walked into war zones, really.
You darn right they did.
Yes, they did.
And they went into our nursing homes repeatedly and cleaned them and kept them clean. It's a tough environment to keep clean.
Yep.
They went on the testing front lines. You know, they're the people there that they're right on the front line of this testing thing. They're in the food pantries. They're setting up hospitals overnight when they need them. More rooms. Tell them what to do. They've done it.
Right.
I mean, it's just great to see what our National Guard has just jumped right in there under the governor's direction. I mean, they've got a great guy that's running it, but under Homer Bryson, under the governor, he did it. Now, you look at other states, they're not using their people like we are.
No.
And you can look at our nursing homes and say, breaking that cycle of reinfection is directly related to the job they've done.
Now, when serving the areas that you serve, I know your phone rings constantly. Okay, percentage-wise, who wanted to open back up and who wanted to keep it shut down? What was the percentage?
Well, I think mine, the majority was open back up.
Okay, me too.
By far. Yeah, I think they're by far.
Because we came here with common sense. We're just country folk, and we just kind of use your common sense that your grandmother taught you, use your common sense that your mama taught you, wash your hands. You do all these things that make sense, and the common sense says we have to get back to work, we have to get the payrolls going.
There's pride, Cherie. I mean, just the working people pride that want to take care of themselves, not looking for a government handout, and want to take their family, take care of themselves, and that's where we live. I'm glad to live up here.
I had a serious conversation with somebody, and she kind of spanked me because I took part of my.
We're all like going, we're not seeing that.
I took part of my, I call it stimulus money, and I sent it back to somebody that I support for president.
Sure.
Because I wanted him to be successful. Yeah. And she said, "Oh, but didn't you need that money?" I said, "He needs it worse than I do. I need to know that in the next coming election, you're going to be reelected. The president's going to be reelected. We're going to reelect people who had us on the right track. Y'all didn't jump the track. No. Nobody jumped the track. The damn train wrecked. Yeah. And it wrecked with this virus. Yes. So nobody did anything wrong to put us in this horrible position we're in. But I felt it was more important for me not to have a big screen TV, to put it back into a campaign of a man that I support completely. And you see this? That was my first rally in my whole life.
Oh, how fun.
Was before he was elected. And you see how worn and tattered it is? But I am working harder, more successful than I've ever been in my life, because we had the leadership of a good governor, a good president, a good Senate. We had people out there that put us back to work. Yeah. Imagine that.
Well, that has led, I think, on our end, on the state end, we had a good governor, Nathan Deal, very pro-business, looking forward. I mean, looking.
Well, we can even go back to study Purdue. We started in there.
And they all have just looked forward. What can we do to make your business grow, do better, make Georgia grow and do better? And that's been our focus. I remember at some point, back in like 14, 15, 16, I had this bill. I can't remember what it is now. I went to see the governor about it. And not that I ever asked his permission to do anything. I'm just not that kind of guy. But I think they were talking about it. I remember Nathan looking at me and said, "Rick, how is this going to affect business in Georgia?" Good question. I mean, I know what it's going to affect policy-wise, but how will it affect business in Georgia? Very clear, his leadership through, in 2012 to when he left, putting money in the rainy day fund whenever he could. Yeah, 2.8.
I remember that well.
That 2.8. But we brag on it a lot, and people just poo-paw you. They just, y'all are just, what are y'all going to use that money for? Well, we're going to use it.
Rainy days came.
The rainy days upon us, and that 2.8 billion, that is a lot of money, will be used to fill in to July 1st.
That's right.
I don't know what it'll take, but out of that 2.8 billion, we spend 100 million right now, which will end up being 200 million when that's over. And filling in to make sure we balance the budget like we've got to. Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll start, we start on the budget.
My granny would love y'all. Because she was all about that balanced budget. She was all about operate within your means, sugar, operate within, and I didn't listen to her. And I got bit in the butt several times.